Do you translate every sentence in your head before you speak English?
Do you know the words but still freeze when it's time to talk?
Then this lesson is for you.
Today, we're talking about how to think in English more naturally and why translating everything in your head is slowing you down.
And remember, you can switch the subtitles into your own language to make the lesson easier to follow. Now let's get into the conversation. Hi, Alex. Today's topic is something that almost every learner struggles with, even if they already know quite a lot of English.
Yes, definitely. A lot of learners understand grammar, know vocabulary, and can even follow lessons quite well, but when they try to speak, they still translate everything first.
And that makes speaking feel slow, heavy, and unnatural. So let's start with the big question. Why is it so hard to think in English?
Hmm. I think one big reason is that learners are trying to protect the exact meaning of their first language thought. They build the idea in their own language first and only then try to carry it into English. That feels safe, but it also creates delay.
That makes a lot of sense. So the problem is not always lack of English. Sometimes the problem is the path the learner is taking into English.
You're right. The thought starts in one language, then it gets translated, checked, corrected, doubted, and by the time the person is ready to speak, the moment has already passed.
That's such a strong description. I think many learners will recognize that feeling immediately. They know what they want to say, but they cannot say it quickly enough.
Yes, and then they think, I can't speak English, when really the issue is often that they are taking too long to build each sentence.
So, what changes when someone starts thinking in English more?
Hmm, I think the first big shift is this. Instead of asking, how do I translate this exactly, they start asking, how would I say this simply in English?
That's such an important difference. So, the goal is not to preserve every detail of the original thought. The goal is to express the meaning clearly in English.
That's true, and that often means saying something smaller, simpler, and more natural than the first language version.
Can you give an example?
Yes, imagine someone wants to say, I'm in a strange emotional state because too many things happened at once and I didn't process them properly. That's very heavy to build in real time. A more natural English version might be, I felt overwhelmed because too many things happened at once.
Yes, that sounds so much easier to say. The meaning is still there, but the sentence is much more speakable.
You got it. And that's a key word here, speakable. Some sentences are possible, but not easy to say quickly in real conversation.
That's such an important idea. So, thinking in English is not about sounding advanced. It's about finding natural English that your mouth can actually use.
Yes, definitely. And I think another big part of this is learning chunks instead of only isolated words.
Yes, absolutely. That makes such a big difference. What kind of chunks do you mean?
I mean useful pieces of language that come out as one unit. Things like, to be honest, I'm not sure, it depends, I feel like, the thing is, at the moment, I don't really mind, I'm trying to, we'll see, I guess. If you know these chunks well, you don't need to build everything from zero each time.
That's such a good point. So instead of creating every sentence word by word, learners can start speaking in ready-made natural patterns.
Exactly, and that makes English feel more direct and less translated.
What about listening? I feel like that must matter a lot too.
It matters massively. The more natural English you hear, the more familiar the patterns become. And when patterns feel familiar, the brain stops treating them as foreign material and starts recognizing them directly.
That's such a good way to explain it. So familiarity helps reduce translation.
Yes, definitely. If you've heard something naturally many times, you stop needing to translate it in your head. It's just there.
So what kind of listening helps most?
I think clear, repeated, understandable English helps most. Dialogues, real-life topics, repeated sentence patterns, simple, natural phrases. Those are really powerful, especially when learners hear them again and again in meaningful context.
So what should learners actually do if they want to start thinking in English more?
I'd say they should start very small, not with abstract ideas, but with real daily thoughts. Things like, I'm tired, I need coffee, I'm running late, I don't know yet, I need a break, I'm hungry, I'll do it later, that was nice. These small thoughts are powerful because they train direct English.
That's such a good point. People often think simple English is not enough, but simple English is exactly what creates fluency.
Yes, that's right. If you can't think small things directly in English, it's very hard to think bigger things naturally later.
So, what should learners stop doing?
I think they should stop trying to sound too intelligent too early. A lot of learners slow themselves down because they want the most perfect word, the most advanced sentence, or the most accurate version of their first language thought.
Yes, that's such a big problem. They're not really trying to communicate, they're trying to perform.
Exactly, and performance creates pressure, but speaking grows through repetition, not performance.
That's such a strong sentence. So, if someone gets stuck in the middle of speaking, what should they do?
Simplify immediately. Don't freeze, don't chase the perfect sentence, just reduce the thought and keep moving.
Can you give a few examples of that?
Yes, for example, instead of I am experiencing a lack of motivation today, say I don't feel very motivated today. Instead of I haven't had enough time to recover mentally, say I haven't had enough rest. Instead of this situation is creating emotional pressure for me, say this is a bit too much for me right now.
That's so useful. The idea stays, but the English becomes lighter and easier to say.
Well said, and that's what learners need more of, lighter, usable English.
Do you think learners sometimes misunderstand what thinking in English means?
Yes, definitely. I think some people imagine one day their whole brain will suddenly become English, but that's not really the point. The real change is that more and more of the path becomes direct. The English starts arriving faster with less translation in the middle.
That's such a helpful explanation. So it's not about becoming a different person, it's about making the connection between thought and English shorter.
Exactly, and that connection gets shorter through familiarity, repetition, and trust in simple language.
What about speaking out loud? Does that matter a lot here?
Yes, absolutely. I think many learners do too much silent English and not enough spoken English. They read, listen, say videos, and study, but they don't say enough out loud.
That's such a big one. So the voice has to become part of the learning process, not just the eyes and ears.
Yeah, that's it. If you want to think in English more easily, you need to hear yourself producing English more often, even simple English, even when you're alone.
So what kind of daily practice would help most?
I'd say answer simple questions out loud, describe what you're doing, talk about your day, react to things in English, repeat useful chunks, and speak in short sentences while doing normal life. Things like, I'm making coffee, I'm tired today, I need to leave soon, I'm not ready yet. That was easier than I expected.
That sounds very practical, and I think that's exactly the kind of practice most learners need more of.
Yes, because it trains directness, and directness is what reduces translation.
So if someone says, I always translate in my head and I don't know how to stop, what would you say?
I'd say don't try to stop completely in one day. Just reduce it little by little. Start with small thoughts. Use more chunks, listen more, speak out loud more, and stop trying to make every sentence perfect.
That's such a kind and realistic answer.
Because this is not a magic trick, it's a speaking habit, and habits change through repeated practice.
That's such a strong place to end the conversation. Thinking in English is not about pressure. It's about building more direct, more familiar, more usable English.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, now let's look at the key ideas from the dialogue and see how to think in English more naturally.
Yes, because this topic is not only about vocabulary, it's about changing the way you build speech in your mind.
Let's start with the biggest shift. Instead of asking, how do I translate this exactly, try asking, how would I say this simply in English? That question changes everything.
Exactly. It makes your English more flexible and much more speakable.
And that leads to the next important idea. Simpler English is often better speaking English. For example, instead of trying to say something very heavy and abstract, you can often choose a more direct version. I felt overwhelmed. I need a break. I haven't had enough rest. I'm not feeling great today. This is a bit too much right now.
These are much easier to say in real time.
Yes, and that matters because speaking is not only about meaning, it's also about speed and ease. Another thing that helps a lot is learning chunks, not just single words. Useful chunks from this lesson include, to be honest, I'm not sure, it depends, I feel like, the thing is, at the moment, I'm trying to, we'll see, I guess, I don't really mind.
These chunks help you speak faster because they come out as one piece.
Exactly, and that makes English feel less translated. Now let's talk about listening, because this is a huge part of the process. A very useful idea from this lesson is familiarity reduces translation. The more natural English you hear, the more familiar the patterns become. And when they feel familiar, your brain reaches for them more directly.
Yes, that's one of the biggest reasons listening matters so much.
That's true, but listening alone is not enough. You also need to speak out loud. A lot of learners are doing too much silent English and not enough spoken English. That's why simple spoken practice matters so much. Very useful daily practice sentences include, I'm tired, I need coffee, I'm running late, I don't know yet, I need a break, I'm hungry, I'll do it later. That was nice. I'm not ready yet. I'm trying to focus.
These are small sentences, but they train direct English.
Exactly, and simple English creates fluency. Another important thing from this lesson is knowing what to do when you get stuck. If you feel blocked, don't freeze and don't search for the perfect sentence. Simplify immediately. For example, I don't feel very motivated today. I haven't had enough rest. This is a bit too much for me right now. I need a simpler way to say this.
That helps you keep speaking instead of stopping completely.
So, if we bring the key ideas together, some of the most useful phrases from today's lesson are, how would I say this simply in English? I'm trying not to translate everything. The sentence feels too heavy. I know what I mean, but I can't say it quickly. I'll say it in a simpler way. Simple English is usable English. Familiarity reduces translation. I need more direct speaking practice. I need more real English out loud. The goal is not perfection. The goal is directness.
That last one is such a good summary.
Yes, because that's really what this topic is about. And now let's put everything together into one natural answer. If I want to think in English more naturally, I try to keep my sentences simple and direct. I focus on phrases I already know well, and I try not to translate everything word for word. Listening helps a lot, because familiar English is easier to use directly. Speaking out loud also helps me build faster, more natural responses. For me, the goal is not perfect English, it's more direct English.
That sounds clear, natural, and very easy to use.
That's the idea. So, as you can see, learning to think in English is not about becoming perfect overnight.
It's about using simpler English, learning chunks, listening more, speaking out loud more, and building more direct speaking habits.
Exactly, and that's what makes your English feel more natural, more fluent, and more real.
And if you enjoy lessons like this, don't forget to subscribe.
It really helps the channel grow and reach more people.
And it helps more learners practice real, natural English.
So subscribe, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
Bye.